I didn't take a moment to ask you about Bill and Ted.
Where the hell is it? Yeah, we will make the damn thing, and yes, I will have news very soon.
In the Bill and Ted 3, do we find out if Bill ever gets to bang Missy?
You know, everybody's asking me that. I don't want to spoil anything though. There is, yeah, kinda, yes.
The Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Laughs, Sirius XM Channel 168.
You, Alex Winter, are about to work on something it looks like that is supremely special. You somehow, and I got to find out how you did this, it's like the caramel secret or whatever, you break into the vaults. No, you get access to the vaults from the Zappa empire, and they allow you somehow, the executor, I don't know what they did if you're written in the will, and now you want to make a true movie, because there's been others done, but of who the fuck is Frank Zappa? Let's get behind it, and we have stuff and access to things that nobody has.
That's right, yeah. I mean, I've always been a fan of his, and I was looking, we were looking to figure out what doc to do after I finished my last one, which was, you know, pretty heavy, all about the hidden internet and cybercrime and all this stuff. And I'd been kind of around federal criminal trials. It'd been very dark a couple of years. So my producer, Glenn Zipper, and I were batting ideas around, and we were talking about how there'd never really been a definitive doc about Zappa. It's sort of a life and times doc. I knew the family a little bit, and Gail Zappa, Frank's widow, passed away a couple months ago. I approached Gail and the family, and I had kind of a take. And I thought, what the hell? Why not just ask them? And they liked the take, and I went and cut like my own little mini movie together just for the family of sort of what the perspective would be. And in a nutshell, I just didn't want to make a music story. I wanted to make a story about this incredible human being, and not a sort of a sainthood, kind of a warts and all, looking at all sides of Zappa. His politics, his worldview, you know. He
wanted to run for president one day.
He did indeed, yeah. Really, really creative person who did a lot of things besides just make music. So that was really intriguing to me. And so they liked the idea, and they sort of gave me the access. I started shooting, actually a while ago, I started shooting Gail
You were filming some of the conversations you had with her. Were you anticipating that she was getting a bit older?
Yeah, we knew she was sick, and we knew she didn't have much longer to be around. So I started shooting her as soon as possible, and got a lot of amazing stuff with Gail. And then I saw the vault, which is legendary. I'd heard about it, and I went down to the basement, and it literally is like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark or Citizen Kane. It's just this basement in their huge house in the hills, and it just goes on and on and on, and it's all his art. It's his vault, so he built it, and it goes back to high school, like when him and Don Van Vliet, when Captain Beefheart were doing stuff in Lancaster. So I mean, it goes back to the early 60s, and it's incredible. It's like music, it's film, it's little spools of 8mm, it's like reel to reel,
and so
audio.
Organized, correct?
It's very organized. To be fair, there was only so much that could get preserved along the way because it's just voluminous. So Joe Travers, who's known as Vault Meister Joe, you know, they've been doing work on the vault for years, but it's by no means archived and preserved. And I kind of had a minor heart attack, and I was like, you guys, some of the stuff is probably gone, and some of this needs to get preserved like today.
Because I mean, things eventually on reel and stuff, they deteriorate. You can never use them, and you got to digitize all the stuff, and you really got to go through it hours and hours and hours and hours. Have you ever had to go through this much stuff while making a film or anything in your life?
No way. I mean, I've amassed, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I'm doing of archival, and I'm doing anything. This is a whole nother league. It was like my entire next year is just archiving. That's it. We're not even going to start cutting for a year.
I guess the beautiful thing about that being a filmmaker is that you really, really become Frank Zappa. Like, you really become the person. You get to see him from a different level, more than just even an interview. You
totally,
feel it, you live it, you sleep it, you dream it. Is that what's happening?
That's
with
kind of
you,
what
Alex
happens
Winter?
when you make docs. Yeah. I mean, maybe when you do any creative work, having trained as an actor since I was a child, there is kind of a character actor component to this where you end up finding yourself becoming these characters. And obviously you aren't them. They have a whole world unto themselves that you really will never get to. It's like an inner life that you can't penetrate. That's why, you know, coming off of Deep Web, I got so entwined with some of these people who were going to jail for long stretches, who were really enmeshed in some dark stuff. I really needed a palate cleanser. Zappa's world, even though it's tragic that he died so young and Gail died, his world is pretty great and entertaining and hilarious.
And you're doing a Kickstarter campaign.
We are. Yeah.
So what's the information on the Kickstarter campaign? You know, I was just looking at it. Your goal was like $500,000 in only a day and a half or something, or a few days. You're at $205,000. I know guys like Seth Green tweeted it out. There's been a lot of people supporting it.
It was urgent that I get started on the vault immediately, and it's a big task. It's expensive. So I talked to Gail about doing a Kickstarter before she died. I just said, look, this is going to be the fastest way to actually penetrate this thing quickly. You know, Joe is doing what he can, but he's mostly involved in music and sort of cataloging music. I got to get all this stuff preserved that's about to rot. It became kind of a code red emergency situation, and that's why we launched a Kickstarter.
Have you worked with Kickstarters before?
Yeah, I did one on Deep Web, a much smaller one, but it funded and it allowed us to actually get the movie made because we used that fund to create a community around the movie, which is really important. And then we cut this really cool sizzle trailer together. We locked up sources from the story, and then we got the movie made. This is different because we have a very specific purpose that we're going to use.
And there must be just so many diehard fans that want to learn more, which you are now going through and learning, and eventually are going to put into a film.
Yeah.
So it must be very nice to be working with the subject of Frank Zappa, which is brilliance, and all crossed over so many different genres of music. I mean, it was such eclectic taste and somehow combined them all.
Yeah.
And so many fans who love that kind of stuff. And so are you getting like personal messages? Are you getting suggestions? Or how's it working?
It becomes a community. I mean, I always deal with that. I dealt with that on both my other docs, which were sort of about community, you know, because I did a doc about Napster that was basically about the first global internet community, which is what Napster was, the first widespread one. And then the Silk Road was the first private, anonymous internet community. That's really what it was. I mean, a lot of illegal stuff was going on, but its primary sort of achievement was being a secret service. So the Zappa community is that times a million. So I'm getting all kinds of people telling me everything from, you know, you better not fuck this up or I'll hunt you down, to, you know, here's what you should be looking for, here's tracks you should be looking for, here's content you should be looking for.
How long at that time do you think it'll take to actually get this movie released? Is it still another year probably?
No, it's at least 2 years, if not longer.
Now,
how many hours is it?
I honestly don't even know yet how many hours, because there's literally floor to ceiling master tapes of every, you know, there's D1s, there's beta max tapes, there's 3/4, every room in their house, not just the vault, you open it and it's like floor to ceiling, like VHS, personal family stuff. I mean, it's, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours.
Wow.
It's a lot.
I would imagine that's stressful, because how do you narrow it down to 2 hours with all that material?
I don't have to worry about that for another year or so.
You got some time.
I've got
still there.
other stressors in front of me at the moment.
My fans, my current fans, our listeners, they would crush me if I didn't take a moment to ask you about Bill and Ted.
Where the hell is it?
And yes, because you've gone on record before saying there's a great script, and that you're anticipating something really big.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, and we're on an uncensored channel. The world wants to know. Is it happening?
I'm on a gag order, basically.
Yeah.
But the upside of that is that, we will make the damn thing, and yes, I will have news very soon. And that's as much as I'm allowed to say.
That's a lot. It looks like it's going to be happening.
We've been putting it together for a while, so now it's put together, basically.
And with Keanu, is that the goal?
Of course. How the fuck would we make this?
Are you still communicating? Do you
no,
still talk?
we haven't. No, we swore we'd never speak to each other again on the last day of Bill and Ted 2, and I'm just really hoping that he shows up for this one on set that day. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm going to do.
That's so exciting, man, dude.
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool.
There must be this anticipation on the end of both of you just to announce this to the world. I
guess so. I mean, we've been fairly measured about it, because we've talked about, and we're also really close friends with the two writers, Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, who wrote it. Like, we've all been really close all these years, so we see each other socially a lot.
Since like '89 or something. When was
the second one was in the '90s. And the first one goes back to like '87.
Wow.
I mean, it really goes back.
Did you ever think that movie would be as big as it was?
I thought it was going to be buried. I mean, it was a little movie that went into the company we made it for went bankrupt, so it sat on a shelf for a year. We didn't think it was going to come out at all.
No,
yeah, we'd written it off. I was in true Crispin Glover like style. I was shooting a Butthole Surfers video in Austin the day that movie got released, and I'd completely forgotten, not that we'd made it, but that someone had somehow rescued it and gotten it put out, and we'd completely given up on it.
Wow.
Like ages before it came out.
And were you single when it was released?
I was.
That must have been a fun time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, briefly. Yeah. But it was very briefly.
I can only imagine.
whatever positives were kind of negated by the fact that if I walked anywhere near a frat house, literally 400 people, mostly very, very drunk and vomiting on themselves, would chase me down the street. There
Hey,
was
part of the hazards of the job,
all
Alex.
manner of upside and downside to that.
Hey,
Yeah.
Todd.
You know what, Roddy, Alex doesn't have his headphones on, but if you throw him on, we have a guy in Toronto who wants to ask you a question. Roddy,
okay, cool.
go. I think, can you hear Alex?
I can.
Yeah,
loud and
Roddy,
clear.
go. Take it away, my man.
I just wanted to thank him, because my band's actually called Most Non-Heinous. So I just want to thank you for the inspiration. And I don't know if you can disclose this, but in the Bill and Ted 3, do we find out if Bill ever gets to bang Missy?
You know, everybody's asking me that. I don't want to spoil anything, though. There is, Kinda, yeah.
Wow, what a revelation here. Thanks, Roddy, for that great question. Man, this so, while Crispin's still here hanging out so politely and patiently, I never asked you that. Did you ever assume Back to the Future would have been as big as that movie was?
Yeah, I felt that it would do well. Not too long after E.T. had come out, Steven Spielberg was executive producing. I could see that it was a well-structured screenplay, and Robert Zemeckis had directed Romancing the Stone, which had done very well.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to do well.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I just think, and I guess this is why I'm so excited by Bill and Ted coming out again is how technology is advanced in those types of movies with time travel and everything, But there's relations there, right? Where what we can do now,
Sure,
with CG and effects and everything, it's just truly going to be phenomenal.
It has to be said that Back to the Future with Zemeckis was pretty technologically ahead of its time at the time. Bill and Ted was a pile of dog shit in comparison, effects wise. I mean, if you look at those two movies together,
it's kind of the allure of it, though.
I was going to say it's part of the charm of our film for sure, but Zemeckis' stuff holds up incredibly well because he's always been so far ahead of the curve technologically. But we are aiming to make a better Circuits of Time. We owe that to the fans to make a better Circuits of Time this time around.
You're known for such legendary films individually and respectively, obviously, and then through that, you've had great careers in Hollywood and been behind the camera, produced, written, directed, all this kind of stuff. Does it ever get annoying when a guy like me interviews the two of you and I ask you about the nostalgia and maybe don't focus on the stuff since, or is that just part of the gig and you love it?
Well, usually people are professionals and they know that you're there to talk about something that you're currently working on. It's really not normal to have somebody only focus on something that you did a long time ago. So
a little bit of both is
fine.
Would you say, Alex Winter, that's a fair response?
Yeah, I mean that, and the fact that I have, those things are things that you love doing. So it's nice to have people talk about stuff that or still even care about that stuff. So
yeah, especially when it might relate into another movie, which
but
hopefully
even when it doesn't, it's true. But it's still nice. I think that I don't think too many people feel.
So it's cool to have super fans, right?
Of course.
Well, that's great. Crispin Glover, Alex Winter, thank you so much.
The Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Laughs, Sirius XM Channel 168.
Hey, what's up? I'm Roddy. Subscribe to our channel. You're going to love it. For the rest of this episode, you got to check out our podcast online on the website. Go check it out.